This is Phil Lindeman, news director at Crystal 93, and I am here today with Ryan Hyland, town manager for the town of Silverthorne. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming in. And I wanted to follow up on something you were talking about at the COO breakfast back in the beginning of the month, the beginning of October, and you gave a presentation on all the big, exciting things that are coming to Silverthorne. And so we wanted to talk a little bit more about that. As we were talking earlier, it doesn't seem like much is coming together there. People have seen the brand new Performing Arts Complex.
Right.
Other than that, though...
Right. When they look across the street at what we call the Catalyst site, which is going to be developed as 4th Street Crossing, today they're not seeing anything. They're seeing a block that basically looks the same as it has for decades. But behind the scenes, there's been an incredible amount of work going on in planning, and then more recently this year, the town selecting a preferred developer to work with the property owners there and with the town to come up with a new development. So a lot's gone on that folks don't see when they drive by, but this spring they should see dirt moving and that project getting underway.
Great. So things will be getting started, but it's not like this is exactly a new project. So the downtown rejuvenation, downtown core idea has been around for a long time. Talk me through the genesis of that and kind of the bird's eye view of what the town wants to do with this remodel.
Sure. And so when you're talking about 4th Street Crossing, like you said, that's one component of really the transformation of the entire downtown area. And so it's really been, a few years ago, we started taking a comprehensive look at the downtown and figuring out how do you come up with a successful, vibrant, pedestrian-oriented downtown. And so, we embarked on a lot of code changes, zoning changes, so that you can do a lot of work, and then if you end up with a fast food restaurant or a gas station in your downtown, then you've sort of shot yourself in the foot. So making sure that we've got the right design components, the right zoning, so that we end up with what everybody's looking for and the community really deserves in their downtown, which is great restaurants, great shops. You've got a residential component, you've got office, you've got all of those things that really make a downtown work. So worked on those foundational efforts, if you will, for many years, and then got to a point earlier this year where we were able to go out in conjunction and partnership with the property owners and solicit development interest. And so Millender White is the group that came to the table, and they've got a great plan. I'll talk about that in a minute if you'd like. And so that was the 4th Street component. But as you said, bigger picture, when we undertook all those planning efforts, we knew that we needed cultural amenities. And so we had an opportunity to partner with the Lake Dome Theater Company and create the Silverthorne Performing Arts Center, which is a great complex that we were able to open in June, and we were getting rave reviews and sold out shows for the theater company, and then you see other things that are catalyzed by that particular project. You've got Sauce on the Blue, you've got Angry James Brewery coming. So overall, when you're looking at the whole downtown, you start to get that feel that we've finally gotten over that hump, and you're getting great buildings that are coming out of the ground. We're out of that planning stage, and we're actually seeing things built and opening, including new residential, which is something new for us with a new condo development where we've got folks that were just moving in this week to that project. So we've got more folks living in our downtown, which is kind of new.
Yeah, very cool. And that's kind of before you guys even started looking at what to do with the downtown, Colorado was already growing, and now it is growing at a rapid clip, and the mountains are no different. So did that factor into any of these decisions, thinking about the fact that this state is growing and people want to live in the mountains, people want to be here?
Absolutely. I think Silverthorne's, kind of uniquely positioned in that we are the first stop after the tunnel, very close to Denver, and we do know that those folks, all those new residents, really enjoy coming up here. So Silverthorne is a growing community. If you look at on the north end of the community, the Summit Sky Ranch development, we've got a lot of new residents that, again, moving in just in the last couple months up there. So we know that we have the opportunity, and so on one hand, a lot of folks are going to want to come here from Denver, but really what drove this for this town council and previous town councils was delivering a downtown for the immediate community, for Silverthorne residents who, frankly, had been sort of using other downtowns for their a lot of their shopping and dining instead of staying in their hometown. So providing that was really at the top of the list, but certainly tourists from Denver are going to be interested in this development.
Okay. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we have coming up. So what are some of the highlights of what will be happening to the downtown core and to the new Silverthorne?
Yeah, so in addition to, like I mentioned, some of those new developments that are already there with Sauce on the Blue and some of those other things, the 4th Street crossing, just to orient people, we're talking about the block that contains the ODI, the Mint, the First Interstate Inn, and also the Summit Stage Transit stop is on that block. So that's the block that Millender White is looking at developing. And so when we're looking at that block, there's a lot of different components that will be there. We see 4th Street, which is, if you walked out of the pavilion and headed directly west, that's 4th Street. So we see that as being a new Main Street experience with, I did mention at the COO breakfast, sidewalks.
Yeah, and that's something that Silverthorne hasn't.
It sounds like a radical idea, right? In Silverthorne, but really creating that traditional downtown grid with sidewalks. So 4th Street we see as kind of that Main Street, which will have retail, and then you're going to have residential above. So that's what you'd see on sort of that frontage. From the highway perspective, one of the things that you'll see is there will be a boutique hotel, and Millender White, I think, in the next couple of weeks, will be announcing the brand that will be. So we're excited about that. We had a lot of interest from hotel groups, and they have, I believe, selected the best hotel for that location. So that will be about a 70 to 90 room hotel. Then where the ODI is situated right now, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Source or the Central Market in Denver, which are sort of these market halls that are very popular and fun places.
Yeah, it's kind of a growing concept just in general in urban planning, is having a little bit more of the mixed residential with commercial with entertainment,
right,
all in one place.
And then the market hall is a great opportunity for a whole bunch of different restaurants and food suppliers to be under one roof. And not have to incur that expense of each of them, operating sort of their own facility. So that's what they're looking at there. I think the idea that Millender White has right now is at least some of that structure with the ODI and some of that history will be preserved and integrated into that. I'm not exactly sure how that will play out, but they are trying very hard to maintain some of that history and that great vibe that was there with the ODI.
Yeah, so even as the downtown is growing and kind of modernizing itself, they're still being aware of the history.
Right.
And the fact that this is a mountain town. We're not trying to build a brand new downtown Denver here.
Right. It's got to be authentic to Silverthorne. One of the things that will remain on the site and will sort of become a central feature with a public plaza around it and a new public space is the Mint. And so that will be integrated into the project. So retail, housing, the hotel, the market hall, and then also some live-work townhomes, which is a product that I think folks are interested in, and there's not a whole lot of that in the county. So we will have housing there. Then one of the things that we've also talked about is parking, obviously. And a parking garage is being planned, which I think is a great amenity, especially in the winter for folks that are not looking to clean their cars off.
Do we know how big? Is it looking like an underground sort of thing?
No, it'll be above ground. It'll be a couple of stories. And the main level, the town does have the transit center on the corner of 4th and Adams. And so that would transition or shift into the parking garage, so the first level. So again, that would provide an opportunity for the users of the Summit Stage to be in a sheltered facility rather than kind of out in the weather. So we think that's
big improvement over the just kind of stand out at the at a bus circle.
and I mean, there's some shelters there now, but this would be more of a transit facility where you'd be indoors, and so we think that's a win-win as well. So that's kind of the plan for the whole site. There would be an alley that runs down the middle that would kind of turn into a pedestrian walkway, and so the next steps for the development process in the next probably 3 or 4 months, Millender White obviously will be going through the whole formal development review process that any developer goes through with the town. And as part of that, we will have opportunities for public input. So we'll have community meetings, there'll be public hearings. And so, really want to encourage people to participate in that process, share their thoughts on, the development that's being proposed and architectural features and all of those components, because this is, this will be sort of the foundation of this new downtown in Silverthorne. And so we want to make sure that we get it right. One of the things that we talk about frequently is we're kind of creating that downtown history today, whereas a lot of the other mountain communities that people are familiar with have that 100-year-old Main Street. Silverthorne's only 50 years old, and so we don't have that long-standing history or that Main Street. We get to create that now.
Yeah, it really reminds me of a place like Vail, and I think of the fact that, that was a purpose-built resort town, but these days, you can hardly tell the difference. It's still attractive. There's lots of people walking. The farmers markets are huge. The events they have are huge. And you guys are kind of in a similar position right now. You have the opportunity to do what you want with a Main Street and make it what people want too.
Right. And it's also a fair amount of weight on our shoulders and the developers, because you got to get it right. And I think the plan that I've been talking about, I think people will see that it is what people are looking for. It's that vibrant pedestrian opportunity. I think, you mentioned Vail, and you see more pedestrians than vehicles in that area. And I think that's our goal here, is to really have the pedestrians dominate. So I should mention one of the things that is important is the highway runs through there, obviously. And we do have, the pavilion and the Performing Arts Center and that retail on the east side of the highway. And we need to make sure that we can get folks to this new development and back and forth, and the Performing Arts Center, and that everybody's easily getting across that highway. And right now, you can get across there. We have crosswalks and we have all those things, but it's not the most pleasant experience. And so we are working with CDOT to come up with a plan where we may narrow that roadway. We may end up with some on-street parking on the roadway, potentially mid-block crossings, slowing speeds down. And so for that couple block area, you're going to feel, as you should, like you do when you go through Breckenridge or Frisco's Main Street, that pedestrians are really, kind of ruling the day there. And you're driving through there, but you're understanding that you're in a downtown environment. So you're going to be going a little bit slower. You're going to need to watch out for folks. So working with CDOT is really kind of one of the last, planning foundational pieces to make sure that whole area can be successful.
Great. Now, looking again at the overall picture, what is the timeline on a lot of these projects? I mean, I'm sure that they're constantly up in the air, especially with approvals and some of these other things. But what is the dream goal to have some of these projects finished and completed?
Well, the plan right now is to have the developer go through the review process in the next couple of months, and then be under construction in the spring. They currently would like to tackle the whole block at once. And so I think you would see construction in 18 and then opening in 19. So sounds a little bit far off, but it's really not when you consider how long it takes to build a project of this size and scope. We're talking about an entire city block, essentially, almost 4 acres, and all said and done, probably a $68-70 million project. So it's a big undertaking, but like I mentioned, we're at that point where I think you're going to see things coming out of the ground in the spring rather than just drawings on the paper.
It's getting exciting. What's the feeling and the energy like at Town Hall with all of these big things?
Oh,
in the wings.
I think the whole community feels like Silverthorne is on a roll, and whether it is new restaurants, the new brewery that's coming, Baker's Brewery, which opened a few years ago, the Performing Arts Center. There's a great energy, and people are really excited because, like you mentioned, it's been many years coming. The community's been very patient in sort of waiting for the town and a developer to help bring together a vibrant downtown. So it's an exciting time in Silverthorne for sure. Growing community, like I mentioned, a lot of new residents, and so we're very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned that you definitely want public feedback. You want feedback from the folks who will be using this main street and will be living on this main street area. How can people get involved? You know, where should they look? How can they pay attention to meetings and stay informed about, where to be and when?
Sure. One of the great ways to stay connected is the Silverthorne Pulse newsletter. And so if folks go to our website, they can sign up for that electronic newsletter. Facebook, that's, a way that everybody's staying connected now. And we're certainly sharing all of our stories there. I mentioned the developer does have the website. It's 4thstreetcrossing.com. Folks can go and they can look at the plan that we've been looking here in front of us, describing what's coming there. And, I always encourage folks, stop by Town Hall, stop in, pop in my office, pop into community development. There are always numerous rumors that are floating around out there, and we're happy to tell you, no, that's actually not true, but here's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
And Facebook, the newsletter, stopping by, and we will certainly be using radio stations and the newspaper when we're talking about those public meetings and community input sessions that will be coming up in the coming months.
Great. And of course, like you were saying, soon enough, people will be seeing shovels, they'll be seeing dirt moving, they'll be seeing all that construction getting started. So seems like it's a ways away, but right around the corner.
And a lot of times that's when folks say, oh, wait, what's going on there? And at that point, it's a little bit too late to have provided input. You want to be at those meetings before you see that shovel, because that's when you actually have an opportunity to share your thoughts on architecture or design and layout, and really have an impact on what you see built in your community.
Yeah, and again, like you were saying, that's something that the town really wants. They want the feedback from the community. They want everybody to be involved in this cool new project.
Yeah, and as does Millender White, the developer. They really want to build something that the community is proud of, and so they're looking for that feedback as well.
Great. Well, Ryan, thanks again for coming in, talking a little bit about the new 4th Street crossing and all the cool stuff that will be coming to Silverthorne in the next coming years. And like you said, it's a large project, about $70 million, and expected to have things popping up by 2019. Thanks again, Ryan.
You bet. Thanks for having me.